All right, so just again, today is Thursday, Infrastructure Squad, and we're going to pick up from where we left off last week. Last week we looked at Elastic Beanstalk, right? And last week we also looked at CloudWatch, and we saw how to integrate CloudWatch with Elastic Beanstalk. For some reason, we weren't getting all the logs as expected in CloudWatch, but we'll work more on CloudWatch today. We're going to start off first with, Dak was going to share his screen. We'll walk, or we'll work through, not yet.
Oh.
We'll work through a blocker.
Yeah, I'm seeing your screen, Dako.
That Dako has.
Oh, okay.
And then, yeah. So why can't I see? Okay, there, yeah. Can see your screen.
Okay.
All right, so we'll walk through the blocker that Dako has, and then that way we can, we'll probably be solving a problem that other people have had as well. But this will also help us understand a little bit more about how Elastic Beanstalk actually works, hopefully.
So I've just gone to Elastic Beanstalk, and as you can see, it's degraded, and if you see what's running, it's the default.
The sample application.
Yeah, sample application. Right. What I tried to do was, I'll just show you, I have, if I go to my hair, so I did where did I put it now? I zipped up, where's web app?
Right, so first thing, let's see why. Let's look at the logs and see if we can find out why.
Okay, so, just to show you, this is what I tried to load, this one here. It didn't work for me. So if I go back, so if we go back to, so you want me to look at the logs?
Yeah, let's look at the logs.
Full last 100?
Let's look at the last 100 lines.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's see if we can figure out what went wrong in here. So if you scroll all the way to the bottom, let's see.
So not quite sure.
Okay, go on to the top, the first set of logs.
First set, yeah?
Yeah, so if you, this log file is in sections, right? So if you go.
Okay, so what? So the section there? Is this the second one? Okay.
So scroll down, let's see if we can see near the end of that section.
So this one here?
So you have an error there. It says an error occurred during execution of command app deploy.
And this is why I thought it might be, because I know you changed it to have a start command. And I was thinking maybe the copy I was downloading was out of date.
So let's see. It says Node.js may have issues starting.
Yeah.
Provide a package.json file, or add server.js or app.js file in source bundle. Okay.
So that's one error, and I think
so you're missing server.js or app.js.
And then I think it's a repeating. I think that's exactly the same error here.
Right. So which means the zip file that you have does not have a server.js or app.js or package.js. All right.
Right. Okay.
So let's do this. Let's look at. So you are going to show us what you packaged.
Yeah. So and let's be clear. This is what you packaged, or what I thought you packaged, and that works for you. This one here, if you can see.
Yeah. Well, so that is not what I packaged.
Oh, okay.
Right. That's not what I packaged. So let me share my screen, and then I can talk to you.
Okay. And I was trying it with our classroom app, but I don't think that was going to work anyway because of the various different variables and stuff.
Right. All right. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let's do this here. Can you see my screen? Oh,
yes, we can.
All right. So what I'm going to do here is all right. So I have a folder here called Beanstalk Origin. Beanstalk demo, right? This is what I uploaded.
Ah, okay.
Right?
Right.
So
okay.
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna add this to Git. Okay?
Yeah.
And I'll push it, and you can clone it. I'm gonna add it as a different repo. So let's come here to Git. Right? And I'm gonna create a new repository. Okay? To be private, and I'm gonna call this Beanstalk. All right. And here, so here's yesterday, someone's asking about the git ignore. When I'm creating a new repository, this is what I do to generate a new git ignore. You see the option here to add git ignore is none.
Yeah.
I typically will come in and ask it to add a git ignore for node. So it keeps filling here. I will get to node. And I add a git ignore for node. Right? I'll say create repository. All right, so now I have my new repository here. And so go and download SSH. Copy this. All right, and then here, git init. Okay, git remote origin. All right. Actually. Sorry, guys. 1 second. I just want to be able to push this out so that we can get it. Okay, so now you can actually clone. Now you can clone this repo.
Okay.
So I'll stop sharing so you clone it and then we'll work off of your computer.
Right, can you? Okay, all right, fine.
I'll stop sharing. All right. So now you can share your screen. All right. So if you go to GitHub, yep. Yeah, and then go to the software development training.
So then again, I always struggle with this.
Just click on the logo on the left. Oh, okay, you're already on your home.
Yeah, I'm on my home. Let's go.
Yeah.
So this is,
right there.
Yeah, so and this is being stuck. And download, and now I'm going to use HTTPS.
Yeah. That's still connected, selected.
Sorry?
I was going to tell you what, once you click on it, highlights.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay. Come in here.
And then make sure you're, no, don't be in classroom. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good, yes. So get clone. You're doing well.
Great.
Yeah, and then you can open that folder.
Okay, sorry.
Do the file open.
Oh, no, sorry, that was wrong.
Yeah, do file open.
What am I doing? Okay, file
open.
Oh, no, there it was.
Yes.
Isn't it?
All right, so you can open the terminal.
Okay, so that's done that.
Okay, so let's just revisit the concepts for everything, and then we'll walk through uploading.
Okay.
Right. All right. So first thing, what's an EC2 instance? Like anyone? What does EC2 stand for?
Elastic computing. Elastic cloud computing.
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Okay.
What does EC2 stand for? Anyone?
I'm Googling at the moment.
Elastic
compute cloud.
Yeah. No Googling. I want you to try to remember. Where's Yewande? Should have offered something. Where's she? She's not on today. Oh yeah, she dropped infrastructure. All right. So Elastic Compute Cloud. Okay, and what is that? What's Elastic Compute Cloud?
Well, the way I see it, it's just basically a computer in the cloud that I can use.
Okay.
A machine.
It allows businesses to run application programs on Amazon.
Okay. So Elastic Compute Cloud is essentially cloud-based computing, right? So in a way, both your answers are right, but it is essentially the ability to set up computing in the cloud. So to set up a virtual computer, right, a virtual machine, and all the networking and infrastructure needs around it. Okay, that's EC2. So it's Elastic Compute Cloud. So it's not just about setting up computers in the cloud. The computer that you set up is called an EC2 instance, right? But there's a lot of other pieces that work with it. So that way, if you go into your AWS and you go to EC2, now for now, we've only really explored the EC2 instance. We haven't explored other aspects of EC2 and the services that are needed around it, right? So if you go to EC2, it's right in the middle. And what you notice, if you look at the left column, right, all these are parts of EC2. You have the instances, right? You have images. You have the Elastic Block Store, EBS, which is essentially how you define like hard drives and storage for your EC2 instances, right? You have network and security, okay, and you have load balancing. These are all parts of EC2. Now, they are, for a reasonable part, or a lot of them are actually their own AWS services as well that you can consume independent of an EC2 instance. For example, the load balancing, right, or Elastic Load Balancer, you can use outside of just EC2 instances. Elastic Beanstalk, for example, uses the load balancing, right? You can create EBS stores, Elastic Block Storage, which essentially is how you create hard drives, right? That's different from S3. But all of those things come together in EC2 very nicely, okay? All right, what's Elastic Beanstalk? How is Elastic Beanstalk different from EC2? What's special about it?
It's the server. Again, in my own language, it's the server version of the EC2, which allows you to host applications.
Okay. Anyone else?
It's used for deploying applications.
Okay. Anyone else?
It's an environment that gives you an environment that allows you to host applications and also configure other aspects of your application that makes it run good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I mean, these are all good answers, and the answers got progressively better because it seems like we're building on. So, Elastic Beanstalk allows you to set up application environments, right? EC2 allows you to set up computing. There may be no application on it. It'll be a raw server that's just there for you to do math, and that's it, right? But Elastic Beanstalk is specifically for deploying application environments or worker environments, right? And that means it also, okay, what special capabilities did we talk about last time about EC2 that gives it advantages over, about Elastic Beanstalk that give it advantages over EC2, right? What was a lot easier if you went with Beanstalk than with EC2?
Scalability.
Scalability, yep. We saw that. We demonstrated how if you set a minimum of 3 instances, well, Elastic Beanstalk will always make sure you have 3 instances, right? We destroyed 1 instance, spun up a new one immediately, right? What else is great about Elastic Beanstalk?
Configuration.
Configuration?
Yes.
Okay, can you speak to that a little more? What about configuration was easier or was good?
So we saw that with the Elastic Beanstalk, we're able to basically configure the database that we're going to use, select what type of database that we're going to use for our application. Also, we're able to, sorry about the noise in the background.
That's okay.
Yeah, so we're also able to, that was an option for security. Basically, we're able to configure the security that is also needed.
Right.
So I'd say security, database, were a few of the things that we saw that worked well with the Elastic Beanstalk. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Was there something about the fact that the installation of things like database is quite easier, much easier than EC2?
Mm-hmm.
Where you can just pick, as you're configuring it, you pick all the installations rather than have to go through the whole npm install and all the stuff we did with EC2.
Mm-hmm. So installing the software, the environment, setting up the environment was super easy. You just said it's going to be Node Beanstalk, and it did all the installations you needed, right? It actually started with a Node image. So you didn't have to install Node, you didn't have to install Git, right? And then also deploying your application is super easy. When you deploy it, it will do the npm install and everything automatically and start your Node server automatically, right? The other thing about Elastic Beanstalk that's important is that it also comes with a load balancer, right? By default, there's a load balancer there, and your application is there. Your application will run on port 2020, or port 8080, rather. Now, how about environment variables? Does anyone remember what that is and how it works in Beanstalk?
It was quite it was quite easy to configure them. You had a form that you could basically fill up, put it on the screen, put it in
So Elastic Beanstalk is your go-to if you want to set up a new application environment, right? To deploy code, to deploy a new application being developed by developers, either by yourself or other people. Your go-to method of setting up the environment is Elastic Beanstalk. Now you can set up an EC2 instance and set up everything and manually deploy to it. It's not as easy to manage. It's not even as easy to set up. With Elastic Beanstalk, you're up and running in 5 minutes. If you're going with EC2, it's going to take you maybe 30 minutes to set up and have everything together and running and set up all the routing. Elastic Beanstalk sorts out all the routing, right? The security groups, the policies, and everything. At least you have the application running on port 8080. You're good. Okay, so that's one of the main thing with Elastic Beanstalk is it is designed for setting up application environments that provide high availability, which is why it will do auto scale, right? You can say have a minimum of 3 instances so that there's always at least 3 instances right? Serving your application. There's a load balancer in front of them and 3 instances behind. Those instances are EC2 instances, right? But Elastic Beanstalk includes EC2 and everything else needed to serve that application environment. And then when traffic spikes, based on how you configure your auto scaling, Elastic Beanstalk will scale automatically. Now, deploying your application to Elastic Beanstalk, this is where Dapper is blocked. Right now, we have a Node.js Beanstalk, and Dapper, your screen is still shared, right?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So this is where Node.js, this is where Elastic Beanstalk has its nuances. Right now, we have a Node.js Beanstalk, right? So it expects us to have an app.js or a server.js, or it expects us to have an npm start script, right? The npm start script is defined in package.json. Package.json has a scripts section, and then you can define a whole bunch of scripts that you can call with npm. So you can say npm test, npm start, npm build, npm whatever. Those are npm scripts, and you define those scripts in package.json. If you don't have an npm start script, an app.js or a server.js, then Elastic Beanstalk is going to cook. So Dakwa, if you take the folder that we have right now, right?
Yeah.
And now if you go to Visual Studio Code, let's open up package.json and let's see what the start script there is. All right. So if you look there, you see the start. You see there's a script section in the JSON.
Yeah.
And the subject section has a start property, right? That's the start script. If you zip this and upload it, it's going to work just fine. Let's try that.
Okay.
And what I have here in the Beanstalk demo is a built Angular app, right? So it's an Angular app that's been built. So all the TypeScript has been compiled into JavaScript.
Okay. So just to confirm, I'm zipping the app folder, right?
No, you're zipping the whole Beanstalk demo.
Beanstalk. Okay. Oh, okay.
Because the whole thing is the application. Well, we modified this application in the last session to serve a static Angular app.
Okay. So I'm just going to do what I did last time, and I don't know, I can't remember this command off head.
Yeah, in the Mac, it's probably just zip. Okay. So let me see. If the command is the same as for, if it's the same as for Linux, so it's zip -r,
yeah,
right, space, then the file name. So do // beanstalk -demo.zip. So beanstalk -demo. That's it. That's it.
So that's the target, yeah?
That's it, yes. And then do //
Sorry, say again?
// like this current folder.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's it, yeah?
Yeah, try that. All right.
Did that work? So let me just. Yeah.
Okay. All right then. So now upload this to your Beanstalk. Let's see how that fares.
Okay.
Now remember to name your version. Yeah, it's working.
Oh.
And if you scroll up, let's see the events.
Scroll down.
Or scroll down, you mean?
Okay, yeah. So, yeah.
Okay. So while we're waiting, is there anyone that doesn't understand what we're doing right now? Right this second. Any questions about this? Okay. So this file was good. Can you view the application? Okay. So this is good. This far.
Okay.
All right. Now let's try a different way. Let's try uploading it without a start script. All right. So this time we're gonna edit package.json, take out the start script.
This one?
Take out that line.
Do I go to this?
No, you can't. It's a JSON file, not a JavaScript file.
Okay.
Yeah. So
delete it entirely.
Click on the line number. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a JSON document, not a
That's
JavaScript file. And then remove the comma at the end of the previous line.
This one here, yep.
Yep. So you can see it's highlighting that as being problematic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. All right. So you can save this.
Save. Yep.
Now, but for this to work, you need to rename. You need to rename your index.js to server.js.
What? That again?
Rename index.js to server.js.
Why are we doing that?
Not there.
Oh, okay.
Rename the file index.js to
the file.
server.js.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, my bad.
Yeah. Well, you can change the main there as well. It's good. Change main there to server.js since you're changing the file name. Yeah? But I actually want you to change the file name to server.js.
Okay, so this one here, yeah.
All right.
Right.
So now here's the rationale here. Remember what I said? Beanstalk will automatically try to start your application, right? Your node server is not automatically running by default. You have to type node index, right? Or node server to start it, or whatever your startup file is. You have to do that. Beanstalk will automatically try to do that as well by either seeing it as a server.js or an app.js. If there's none, if it sees none of those two files, then it will look for a start script in package.json. If it still doesn't find that, then it will fail. So now we've gotten rid of the start script. Can you zip this? And delete the zip file before you zip this, because this will remove the index.
Can I just call it demo 1?
Yeah, yes you can. Yes you can. Yes, you can. Okay, now let's install this version of the application.
Okay.
And this installation will be quicker because we wouldn't have to do npm install. We don't have any new modules. So it should be good. Yeah, once you click, just wait.
Oh, okay. Is that doing anything at all?
It is actually. It's just not very well implemented.
Okay.
Yeah, so just wait a little. And,
Oh, what happens now? Where did that? No, I think that's gone away.
No, if you go back, what's the version?
It's 2. So it's meant to be 3.
Or is it meant to be 3?
Yeah, I don't think that. I don't think that click took.
All right, try it again.
Yeah, so it's meant to be 3.
Okay, now click.
And if I click.
All right, now it's.
Oh, yeah, now it's doing it. Yeah.
So it's your clicking skills that come into question. You need to play some Minesweeper or something, or Solitaire.
Oh, I used to love my super.
All right, so this is installed. And you see it installed successfully.
Yeah.
And we don't have a start script because we have a server.js.
What's this bit here?
That's just a warning there. Right, different version recommended. It's just a warning based on what's approved. Okay, so that's the other option. You either have a start script or you name your main file app.js or index or server.js. Index.js is not helpful. I would typically go with server.js because it helps remind you that what you're writing in Node.js is a server, right? Especially using Express. What we're writing using Express is a server, all right? And so this does it. Okay, so today we're going to explore something new on 2 fronts, okay? Actually, no, before we explore that, do you have a database set up in your Beanstalk?
I don't think I did. No, I did.
Okay.
When we did configuration.
Right. So let's do this. Open up your server.js. Okay.
Open what?
Your server.js. Open it up in Visual Studio Code.
Okay, yeah.
And let's look at all the environment variables set up for your Beanstalk. So right there, just above starting server, right? On line, let's say on line 14.
Yeah.
Okay, can you console log the environment variables? I'm not going to tell you how. Let's see if you remember that.
Sorry.
So console log.
Okay.
Then output console log the environment variables. All the environment variables.
Yeah, and they are what?
No, just console log all the environment variables.
Will I express?
Remember how do you get the environment variables in Node?
Don't remember. So are we talking things like passwords and?
Yes. So any environment variables that have been set up, how do you access them in Node? We did that yesterday back in the backend squad.
Yeah. We did indeed.
No peeping. Try to think about it. Like think about it conceptually. What are we trying to access? The Node script runs as a your Node script, right? Your node module, when you do node, whatever, it runs as a, there you go.
I remember that bit.
And that is it. That's what you need to do.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll put a semicolon at the end.
Okay.
Okay. That's how you console log your environment variables. The node script or node module runs as a process.
Sorry, which file is this one? Because I'm looking at the file. Mine is slightly different, I guess.
This is in the new repo that I pushed out. So if you clone the beanstalk demo repo, then you'll have this file.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So let's save this, and can you deploy this version of the application?
Okay. You want me to zip it and deploy it, yeah?
Yes. Deploy this. So now the term will just be deploy it, right? I know the process, so just say, hey, can you deploy that new version? That's typically the kind of request you get is, hey, here's a new version, can you please get it deployed? Let's take a few seconds.
So what difference are you expected to see based on that line, that environment line we put in?
Well, we're asking it to log
Show us
the processing variables, right?
Yeah.
So it's console.log. So where do you think you would see that?
Oh, okay. Not there then.
The answer is in the line that you added.
Yeah, on the console.
No.
Ah, I know where.
Let's see. Go for it.
Where's that form for config environments variables? Ooh.
No. That's not where. You've been your logs. Whatever you say, whatever you type in console.log is outputted to the log file.
Oh, duh.
So no, that's an old log file.
So I need to download a new.
You look at the timestamp on that log file, it's outdated. So you need to get the last 100 lines again. That gives you a fresh one.
So okay. Get this out of the way. So that would be.
So the lower one. When you click on that, and so if you scroll down to where it's starting server, should be right near the end somewhere. Now scroll up. Keep scrolling. Now go up. I think it's at the bottom of the first section.
Okay, okay. So somewhere below around here.
Yeah, so you should see where it says starting.
Here. That one?
Where does it say starting server? No.
Oh, okay. No, start running command.
No, not that. So can you open up the code and let's look at the command that we have, the console log. So you see that string there, starting server on port. See if you can search for it in the log. Yeah.
Oops.
You can just
Command F. So that's it down here.
Right.
Oh, are these them?
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Can I ask a question? Are these all variables? These are not all variables, are they? Are they? All this stuff.
Apparently.
Okay, yeah, because you got home.
But I can see ports there.
Yeah, I can see path. So you got your port here. You had, I don't know, log name. We have home, and then language and path.
Right.
So this whole section,
because process.m has a lot of environment
variables. Okay, gotcha.
Right. Okay. All right. So that's it. But remember, anything you console log in Node.js goes to the log file. And so you typically use that to set either markers or marks or, log status. If you perform an action that's invisible to the user, you typically want to log it. Okay? All right, now let's do some more fun stuff. We're going to look at a couple of interesting services, new services now. Well, one new, one old. Okay, so I'm going to take over the screen. And we're going to look in AWS, we're going to look at what's called Lambda. AWS Lambda. All right, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. So AWS Lambda is a very nice service for running Lambda functions, right? But what's a Lambda function? Anyone? Okay. You know the functions that we use as callbacks. Right?
Callbacks?
Yes, the functions that we use as callbacks. We've written quite a few callbacks. We've written callbacks for our route handlers, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Arrow functions. What's another name for arrow functions? Anonymous functions.
Anonymous, yeah.
And what's another name for anonymous functions? Lambda functions. So what's a Lambda function? If you Google it, Lambda function. And that's how you spell Lambda.
Is it like the alphabet one?
Yes, like the Greek letter Lambda. Yes. So JavaScript, Lambda function. Right? They're very similar to anonymous functions. Right? Anyway, there's a whole definition about it that you should read. But essentially, you see here, it says arrow function expressions. Right? So essentially, AWS Lambda allows you to, let's pull up the actual definition for it. I want you to get the official definition, and then we'll talk about practical uses, right? AWS Lambda allows you to write serverless applications that are essentially like one-off scripts. So here is it. AWS Lambda lets you run code without provisioning or managing servers. You pay only for the compute time that you consume. Okay? This sounds very complex, but here's what it is. If I want to write a simple script to perform an action, right? A simple Node.js script or PHP script, whatever language, that I want to perform an action, right? Maybe I wanted to perform an action on a timer, right? Maybe every hour I wanted to hit a particular endpoint, or I wanted to process some data or write some data somewhere or check S3 or something. It's not an application per se, right? It is not cost effective to set up a whole Elastic Beanstalk just for that script to be able to run, right? It's not cost effective to set up an EC2 instance just to run a script, a single purpose script. So AWS provides a service called AWS Lambda that allows you to run a serverless application or module or capability where you can write a script and deploy it to AWS and it will be executed, right? Without having to set up a server. Now, with EC2, here's the difference between how Lambda works and how EC2 works and how Elastic Beanstalk works. Some people have gotten billed for their RDS instance in Elastic Beanstalk, right? It's a few cents to a couple of dollars, right? You're getting billed whether or not you're using it, whether or not it is actually handling any traffic or processing anything. With AWS Lambda, you only get billed when the script runs. You get billed for the compute resources that Lambda function uses, and we call them Lambda functions, right? You only get billed for when that Lambda function executes. You get billed for the computing resources that it uses just for that run. So if it only runs once a day, you only get billed for that one time it runs every day. If it runs 10 times, you get billed for 10 times. If it doesn't run at all, you don't get billed at all. Right? That's the pricing model, and that's, but also the setup. And we're gonna do something very quickly right now, and you're gonna see how much easier it is to set up a Lambda function than it is Elastic Beanstalk. So we thought Elastic Beanstalk was easy. Lambda is even easier, but their purposes are different. You can't deploy a whole application in AWS Lambda. It's not designed like that. I mean, you could. Okay, let me correct that. You could, but that's not the right use of it. So let's go through an example, and that may help. All right. So if I come in here to services and I type Lambda, and we're going to come back to CloudWatch to make this example even more realistic. And I come up to AWS Lambda here. All right. Right now, I have no Lambda functions. And you see that they're called functions. Because think of them conceptually just like functions in JavaScript. Functions do one thing, return one value, right? That's how you should think of AWS Lambda functions. Think of them as functions. So if we come here, we're going to create a new function. And all we want this to do is to console log hello world. Okay? We have different options, right? You can author a new function from scratch. You can use a blueprint, right? Or you can browse the serverless apps repository. We're going to start off with authoring from scratch. Okay? And as with everything else, we're just going to start with a function name, right? And so we're going to say Lambda demo, right? What runtime do we want? There are many different languages you can write Lambda functions in, but notice that the default is Node.js, because I think this was the original language for Lambda functions was Node. Now it supports a whole bunch of other languages. Okay, so we'll just go with Node. Now this is why I said the JavaScript basics is important, even if you're going to be just going to work as a solutions architect in AWS. You need to understand the capabilities and the limitations. All right, now permissions, we're not setting any permissions here. Okay. These are more settings, execution role, you can create a new role and all that, we're just going to leave this at the default. So we can jump into creating our Lambda function. There's some concepts that you'll see here now in our Lambda that will be familiar. Okay. So there are different sections. So this is now our Lambda demo function screen. And there are many different sections of this screen. We're going to look at a few of them. The designer section is where you can add things like triggers, right? Add outputs or reporters or destinations, right? So you can have a trigger that fires up the function and you can have a destination. We're going to ignore this designer for now, just so that we can hop into the code part of it. This part will be more familiar. And notice what we have here. This is our node code, right? Now you have different options for getting your code here. You can either write the code right here, which is using the edit code inline option, or you can upload a zip file, right? Or you can upload a file from Amazon S3. Okay, so here we're just going to go with the default edit code inline, right? And let's just go with the default hello world code here. Okay, we're going to add a console.log here. Console.log called hello world. And this is our Lambda function. What is important here is that it exports a handler, right? Async, we're not going to talk about this right now, right? But what's important is that it exports a handler. This is an important part of defining your Lambda function. All right. Now, if we scroll down a little bit, guess what you have here again? Is this familiar to anyone?
Yep, we got our variables again.
Yep. We have our environment variables again. Right? These will follow you everywhere because they're critical. What you do on your local, right? Demo name, right? What you do on your local, you may want to work differently on the server. So now we have an environment variable called name, and we have demo name. If we come back to our script here, we can say console.log called hello world. How do we access the environment variable, anyone? We want to access that named environment variable here.
Process.env.
Process.env.name. Okay. When this script runs, it's going to run with these environment variables. Whatever you define here, it will run with them. Tags. This is so actually here. There's already a description there for it, so I don't have to. A tag is a label that you assign to an AWS resource. That's it, right? And that helps you access the resource, find it easily. Okay. Let's come down more to basic settings. These are different options. The amount of memory assigned to it, right? The timeout. If it doesn't, it can't run for longer than this. If it hangs, kill it after 3 seconds, right? It shouldn't use more than this amount of memory, etc. AWS X-Ray is for active tracing, right? To record timing, and this is more for monitoring and debugging and what have you. Okay, VPC restricting it to particular virtual private cloud. We haven't gone far enough to discuss that. Concurrency, how many parallel runs of this can happen, right? Right now, it's limited to 1,000 parallel occurrences, okay? And then provision concurrency, these are options we don't really care about right now. Async invocation, these are concepts that we will get to. I mean, we may not get to in the course of this course, but the default will work for the example we're trying to do. And so now we can come here and we can save this. Okay, if you want to test that your Lambda function works, you can come and click on test here, right? And
if there was any issue with it, will it give us an error?
well, we'll see. We can try that. Oh, actually. All right. Let's try that and see. So that test run was successful, no issues there. I mean, so I'm going to be honest, I have never really understood this test part of it. Okay, right here. Actually, this is the execution result here. And here, your question, if there's an error, will it give us an error? Here's the answer. We have an error here, unexpected token. What's the unexpected token? I'm trying to see what this token is. There's an error in here somewhere, but I can't see it. Can anyone see it?
On my end, I have a different, I guess the response looks different from what you have.
Yeah, because you don't have an error.
Okay.
Yeah. So here, this is fine, right? Our response is fine, status code 200 and all of that, right? Hello from Lambda. So here, did I write that wrong? Oh, wait, hold on. Let's save this. Let's test this. Okay, so this is fine now because I don't have my error here anymore. So let me do this here. I'm going to use the process, the environment variable here, plus process.env.name. And I'll leave the console log here actually, because I want to use that to show something in CloudWatch later. So the log bank process to, and I don't know if you notice here, but you can see the environment variables are defined. You see that? All right, so let's save that again. I want to run test. You see this? Demo name, which is what we have set here. That's the environment variable.
Okay.
So now we have our Lambda function. Doesn't really do much except do that. But what's the use of this function? The greatest thing about Lambda functions is that you can set up triggers for them. And they can be triggered by many different things across AWS. They can be triggered by other AWS services. If, let's say, for example, when you deploy a new Beanstalk application, right, you want to send a notification to the whole team saying, hey, new version has been deployed, or to customers saying, hey, new version is available. Here's the changelog, or here's what features are new. You can actually use a Lambda function to do that, right? So let's look at adding a trigger. When you click on add trigger here, you have a bunch of options for triggers, right? And there's so many things that could be used to trigger Lambda functions, right? Let's look at using, I want to use a CloudWatch rule. To trigger this, I want to use a CloudWatch event to trigger this Lambda function. Okay. So here, I don't have any existing CloudWatch rules. And this is a feature of CloudWatch that we're going to go into now. The reason I'm going into it from Lambda is because I wanted to have more context. So if we come here and we say, let's create a new rule, right? And we're going to say this rule name is demo rule. Okay. This is just to show how rules work. This will come together in a second. Schedule expression, right? Now, here's the cool thing about CloudWatch rules is you can have them run periodically, right? I can say this rule runs every, actually, let's say 5 minutes. And I need to make this a break. 5 minutes. Okay. If I make this rule run every 5 minutes, so you think about what you could do with this. You could have it run every day by setting the rate to 1 day. Let me give you an example use of that. Have you ever gotten an email from maybe someone like Verizon or whatever, or from your bank telling your bill is due in 7 days? Anyone? Or saying your credit card payment is due in 10 days. Has anyone received that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the way that is typically implemented is that you have a script that runs at midnight or runs at 1 a.m., but it runs once a day at a particular time. And then it goes through the database to find due dates that are 10 days, exactly 10 days from right now, right? Once it finds that, it triggers an email for every match in the database. This is the kind of thing that you could use a CloudWatch rule. You could write a CloudWatch rule that triggers a Lambda function that does that check. You know what I mean? Or let's say you have an application server and you want to check every hour that it's still running. You just want to hit it, make a request to it, and see if it responds back just every hour. You can write a CloudWatch rule that does that. It calls the Lambda function, and that Lambda function, because it's Node.js, you can do whatever you can do in Node with it. Makes a request out to that server. The server responds, and your Node function logs it to a file, says, very good. Or you have a conditional there where if the server doesn't respond, your Lambda function triggers an email to the administrator saying, yo, server's down, please check in on it. That's the kind of things you do with CloudWatch rules. It's called CloudWatch. Okay, so there's so many different things you can do, but typically a CloudWatch rule, you have an event pattern or you have a schedule expression. The one I've done the most, and this is the default that you have selected, the schedule expression. Event patterns are different, right? Auto scaling, EC2. We can have CloudWatch rules that trigger based on the health status. So you see how when Dak was screwed up his server and the health went from good to degraded, you can have a CloudWatch rule attached to that will call a Lambda function to do something. Maybe restart the server, right? So for this one, we're going to leave it as schedule expression, right? Or we're going to enable this trigger. So we'll add this. And so we now have this trigger here. You see it's connected to our Lambda function. Let's take a quick look in CloudWatch and see what's going on there. Let's come back here. And let's come Services, CloudWatch. Okay. If we look on the left wheel here in CloudWatch, there's a section here called Rules. When we click on Rules here, look at what we have. Our nice little demo rule now shows up here. And it's a scheduled, right? And you see when you mouse over it, it says enabled, triggered by schedule. If we click on this rule, you can see what the schedule is. Fixed rate of 1 day. And here's the description I typed for it. Okay, now guess what? This rule has a target of Lambda function. And what function is targeted? My Lambda demo function. This one. That's what this rule is targeting. You see how those two pieces are coming together? Your CloudWatch rule is a trigger. The Lambda function does something on trigger. Essentially what the function is, right? The function does something. The function always does something. So if we click on Lambda demo here, it actually brings us right into Lambda, into that CloudWatch, right at the same point. Any questions? So now that this is enabled, it's actually run a couple of times. But where's the output? There's no destination, right? We don't have a destination. So this just runs and does nothing. Let's see what we can do with destinations, right? So let's set up the, this is the destination configuration. This is what the output of the Lambda function, what's done with that output. Let's look at the options we have here. So here we'll just set it to the condition for using the destination on success, right? Let's make it on success because right now it doesn't fail. Where do we pipe it? You can pipe it to SNSQ. You can pipe it to an SQSQ. These are different services on AWS. SMS is simple notification service. This is what you can connect to. If you pipe it to this and set it up to send an email, with whatever the message is. We're going to do this in this course. We're going to do SNS and how to trigger messages based on events. So this is something that we're going to learn in a week or two, right? But understanding Lambda functions will help us understand this when we get there. So the output from our Lambda function can be piped to as an SNS topic and SQSQ. SQS is simple queue service, right? It can be piped to another Lambda function, okay? And then it can be passed to an event bridge, event bus, okay? So we're going to leave this. We're not going to do any of this right now. But okay, let's see what we get. If we say Lambda function, what's the destination Lambda function? You can search for a Lambda function. The only Lambda function we have set up here is Lambda demo, right? So let's cancel this no destination. Our function is silent. But let's see, what about monitoring this? It would be nice if we could see like logs and stuff for this, right? So there is also the ability to add monitoring to this. So there's permissions right now. I won't bother with this yet because we haven't gotten into the whole permissions and access control. But let's look at monitoring. What do you see here? Notice our good friend is right back here. CloudWatch metrics. So monitoring is set up. Look at what we have here at the top right. Anyone notice that? View logs in CloudWatch. And if we click on this brings us into the CloudWatch log group. And we now have log streams here. Okay. Let's look at the timing on this. 06, 08, 10. Pretty much right about the same period, right? Because we have our trigger, our CloudWatch rules set to trigger every 2 minutes, right? So I'm guessing I should have something again soon. So let's look at the most recent run. And if you look at these rules here, right? You see what we have here? Thank demo name. Thank demo name. Does anyone know where that's coming from? I need one guess. Good, bad, awful guess. But where's this thank demo name coming from?
Is that the script you wrote?
Is that a good guess or a bad guess?
I just guessed. Yeah, you said give a guess, so I'm guessing.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for the guess. Yes.
Oh, so, yes, I guessed right?
Yes, you did guess right.
Yay!
So if we come back to the scripts that I wrote, right? And we come back right here. What does it say? Thank. And it's using our environment variable. Our environment variable is set to demo name, right? Okay, let's edit this so it's a little clearer. Backward of the queen. Let's give some credit to our Dapper tax paying buddies across the pond. Okay, so now we've changed that. And you see that our script hasn't changed. We've just changed the environment variable, right? Because we've changed the variable. So if we come back here to our CloudWatch log, let's refresh this. And no, actually, let's come back to our log group. Yeah. You see the log groups here, there's a new section for Lambda demo. And if we go in there, we now have our log files, our log entries. What's our most recent entry? Come on. It takes a little while for these to update. Let me go trigger it manually. Let's see. Okay. Let's come here. Let's refresh this. Now, one thing that I want us to notice while we're waiting for that to show up in the logs is look at the build duration here, right? One of the things that you can use to see what's going on and how much you're being billed for a Lambda function is to look in the logs here. You can also see that information. We come back here to monitoring. Because remember, CloudWatch manages pretty much all your cloud information. So here's recent invocations, and it tells you when it ran and the duration. Okay. Here, this is where you see your build duration, milliseconds, the amount of memory allocated. But I really, really want to see that. Some of the things that you can see here is you can see the invocations here. It hasn't been invoked again yet. Let's see. We have errors here. What do we have errors? Okay, the error counts came down. I don't know, these are all very cryptic things to see. With a lot more data, then this makes a lot more sense. But let's come back here to CloudWatch. And I really want to see more in my all right. We have more triggers here. We have a new one here. And if we look in our logs here, look at that. And I have battle of the queen. Okay, so this is where if we don't have a destination, right? Remember, this is set up without a destination, right? So the only way to really tell that it's actually being fired is to come into the monitoring tab, right? And then you can see how often it's being triggered, right? And whether or not it's succeeding. So we had one error, which is why we had a gap in the timeline. Don't know what that error is, but for the most part, we can tell that it's been triggered and it's running okay. And you can always come into the logs here in CloudWatch to view it. Okay, any questions? Any questions, anyone? Okay, then let's come back in here. I'm into CloudWatch. So we've seen what CloudWatch rules are, right? A CloudWatch rule essentially is a rule based on either a specific event or a schedule. Let's explore creating a new rule. So we've gone from Lambda functions, we want to come here. And actually, let's create a new rule. Let's do it from here. Let's create a new rule, and part of creating the rule, we'll create a new Lambda function for it. All right? So let's do this here. We're going to create a new rule. Clicking on create rule, right? We want this rule to be run based on an event pattern this time, not based on schedule. If you do based on schedule, then you can, put in a fixed schedule. This is a nicer interface for defining schedule because you can say every, 5 minutes, every whatever hours, every whatever days. But this time we want this CloudWatch rule to be triggered based on an event. Okay? The service that we want to use, let's use S3. Okay? Let's come here to S3. All right, 53. Simple storage service, S3. Okay? Now, what event do we want to trigger this rule? We want bucket level operations. Okay? All right. Now, what operations do we want? Specific operations. Let's go with specific operations. And we want we want object level operations, right? And what we want is whenever a new file is added to an S3 bucket, we want it to trigger a Lambda function that does something else. Does that make sense? So add, let me see. I want create multi-part upload. Let me see which one. Let's go put object. Okay. What else? Put object. Yeah, let's just go with put object. I will go with a specific bucket, right? Because I want to monitor a particular bucket. So let's see. Let's go here. S3. Which of my buckets here? Let's go with the sub dev training. No, do this one. Yes, online cat training. All right. So I'm gonna go with the online cat training bucket. Okay. And copy this to clipboard. And so this right here is what's this? Can anyone tell what this is? Does this look familiar?
Array of information.
Yeah, but what is this? What's this format?
JavaScript.
This is not JavaScript. No. Look at this carefully.
Isn't it JSON objects?
Yes.
JSON.
JSON. Again, so remember the same thing everywhere. Remember that JSON is a format for transmitting information. It is like filling a form. And what it's doing right here is this form I'm filling, it's converting it to JSON so you can transmit it. Right? All right. So, okay, this done here. Right? We have all of this set up. What am I missing? I'm missing something. Why can't I click on this here? Okay. What am I missing? I'm missing a required field. Oh, it's not letting me do this because I don't have cloud tail. Oh no, I need to add a target. Sorry. So for targets now, see what I have? My target can be a Lambda function. It can be a bunch of other things, but I'm going to use Lambda function because that's what I want to do. And for Lambda functions, I don't have a Lambda function yet. So let's create a Lambda function here. And we're just going to come here to functions and we're going to create a new function, right? And we're going to edit from scratch. We're going to call this S3 change trigger, right? It's going to be Node.js and all that, and keep it simple. And we'll create that. Come on. All right, S3 change trigger. So here we'll come back in here and we're going to use that as my target. A target, Lambda function, S3 change trigger. All right. Doesn't find a match for it yet. Hold on. What's this not? Why is this not? All right. Now that I'm back here. Don't tell me I have to refresh this. This is gonna suck. I have to refresh this. Yeah. All right. We'll just do it again. So again, this is an event pattern. One for S3, simple storage service. I want it to perform object level operations, yes. Specific operations, I want it to be put object, specific bucket by name, in the align cam. Training. We have all that. And here, we want that S3 bucket trigger. Okay, now we can configure the rules. And the rule definition, we're going to call this S3 bucket change, right? I will enable that rule. There, sorry, my rule name needs to be underscore. Okay, so now I have a new CloudWatch rule. And if we come into this rule, you can see how it's configured. And it calls a Lambda function, which is a S3 demo trigger. Okay, and what it does here is it just tracks file has changed. All right, let's save this. And let's come into monitoring. Okay, it has never ever been triggered because it is monitoring this bucket, right? We come to this bucket here and let's upload a file. Let's add a file to upload here from training. We're going to add this zip file. If we upload this to our bucket, right? Let's see. Ideally, that should have triggered our new rule. This is it, right? We click that to have triggered this rule. Not yet, no activity yet. Not yet. Come on. The one thing that you will notice though is that, remember we created this from scratch. Once we added the CloudWatch rule and asked it to use it, it automatically created this trigger here, which is where the connection is. I'm still waiting for CloudWatch to update so that we can see whether or not that rule was triggered. But this is the trigger that is visually represented here. All right. While we wait, any questions? How lost are you? Is anyone completely lost, or are you following this? Is anyone following it?
Yes. I was just following the steps.
Okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. I'll make sure that you know what I was doing is clear. So I'll stop doing stuff and we'll just discuss it until we're all clear. And I want to know if it's not clear, I can talk through the different pieces again. But if you're silent, then that means you're good. And then we can just keep going.
I mean, for me, conceptually, I think I get it. But also I play around with it to understand that, you know, I've got it, especially in trying to setting them up, linking them to my S3 buckets or linking them to whatever I want to link it to. That's what I need to get straight in my head. But conceptually, I grasp the idea of it.
Right. Okay, so let me just talk through what it's doing conceptually. Right. Now, AWS is a whole huge suite of services, right? They're cloud services. Now, many of the different services do different things. But if we just look at something like S3 or Beanstalk, right? Those are services that can be used to automate processes, okay? For example, I don't know if I mentioned at the beginning of the course, but there was a proof of concept I had to do for a government agency that involved essentially parsing the data, the output from a mainframe into consumable data, right? The output from the mainframe was very cryptic, and there was a file that was used to decrypt it, right? And this mainframe spits out this huge data file every hour, right? And then it would take someone literally days to decrypt, to make sense of that file. Because each line in it is a record for a person, but it has so many different fields: first name, last name, phone number, address, whatever. And it's all encrypted, not encrypted per se, but it's mashed up in a way that it's impossible for a human to read and make sense of, right? So they had the key for the file that had, I think, 40-something different delimiters in there. And someone had to go in and start placing markers and splitting it and saying, okay, this is the first name, this is the last name, this is the rest, and all that. So in solving that problem with AWS, what we did was we created an S3 bucket that this mainframe could dump its file, right? There are two options. You either have it dump its file somewhere and then have a script that checks that location periodically, right, to see if a new file has been dumped or if the file there has changed. That makes no sense, right? Because if the mainframe has nothing new to report, it won't write a new file. It could be quiet for days, right? So you have this expensive process just constantly checking to see if a new file is there. The better approach is to have the process of putting a file there trigger the script that checks, that reads the file. You know, it's like, imagine, it's like the difference between USPS and Amazon, right? If you have the Amazon app, when your Amazon delivery is dropped off, you get a notification that your order has been delivered, right? But when USPS drops off your mail, they don't tell you they dropped off your mail. If you don't check your mailbox for 3 days, your mail will be there, right? But you have to go check to see if you have mail. If you check 5 times in the day and they haven't delivered, the mailbox is still empty. You've wasted 5 trips. But imagine how cool it would be if once USPS drops off your mail, they tell you, hey, you have new mail. And then you can go there and pick it up. You only have to go there once. That's the pattern where rather than constantly checking the S3 bucket, right, to see if a new file has been put in there, you can set up a CloudWatch rule that monitors that bucket, and whenever a new file is put in the bucket, it can trigger the Lambda function. That's what we did here. So you're monitoring the bucket, you're looking for object level operations on the bucket, right? And you've set up an S3 trigger such that if there's a put, which is what we configured in our CloudWatch rule. So if we look at the CloudWatch rule, right, the bucket we're monitoring is this, align cat training, and the trigger is somewhere, it's registered somewhere there. But it's a put, essentially a put operation, right? A put object is the trigger. So we hook that up with a Lambda function. Our Lambda function currently does nothing, But we could actually, if we set the destination of the Lambda function to SNS or SES, we could, well, to SNS, we could pipe it such that once a new file is put there, you can send an email to someone, right? You can send an email to someone and say, hey, they just uploaded a new file. That's the most simple setup. Or it could be more complex as to where that Lambda function is actually a node module that reads the file, parses it, and passes the data on. The prototype I did, that's what the node module did. It actually read the file, parsed it, split it up into a JSON object, and then passed it on to another script and wrote that into a database. Okay. So I don't know, does that clarify what this setup is?
Yeah, that helps.
Right?
Yeah, it does help.
Right.
I did have a question. I know that you had mentioned Jenkins, and I'd seen it under the Lambda. I'm guessing we'll still get to it.
Mm-hmm. So Jenkins is not an AWS service.
Okay.
Right? But Jenkins is a really, yes, we are going to set up a Jenkins server. It's one of the things I have planned, right?
Okay.
But we'll set up a Jenkins server. Yeah. Jenkins is a free, and if you Google it, it's a build server. It's a build automation server. So that's Jenkins, the old fella, right? So if you look at Jenkins, it's a really nice, it's old school looking.
Okay.
It's a really, really robust build server. It's the most popular build server out there.
Okay, because I always see it in most of the job, you know, so I'm like, okay.
Because it's very popular. That's part of why we're going to do Jenkins, because if you have Jenkins, it's a good skill to have.
Okay.
All right. All right. So let's see if this nonsense thing triggered. What's going on? Okay. Well, my guess is I may have screwed up my bucket configuration here. So, where's the edit? Yeah. Actions, edits. I'm suspicious of, or maybe this one that I have here. That's why. But I'm suspicious of my bucket name because it's not giving me a list of buckets. Maybe if I say any bucket, let's see if that'll help me. Yeah, update that. And it's enabled, so which is the green here. If you disable it, which you can do from here, come to actions, you can disable that. It will stop working literally. So like this one, we're not using anymore. I don't want to keep running every minute. So remember, your Lambda functions, your chart, or it's billable every time it runs. It may be a fraction of a cent, but this one I had to be set to run every 5 minutes, so that could add up very quickly over a day. All right, so let's see. Let's enable this again. And yeah, let's see why this object. There. This. Upload again. Let's see. Nope. Yeah, I'll have to check and see what's going on with this, but I think it's that warning that I get that I have to set up CloudTail. So we will revisit this again after I figure out why it's not triggering. And there are no logs for this yet. Yeah, the log string is empty. Right. Yeah, so we'll have to come back. I mean, we'll pick this up because there's some more things. We're going to do a lot more things with AWS Lambda. But this primer, I hope this helps you understand what Lambda functions are. Your Lambda function code can be as simple as this, and it can be as complex as a whole API endpoint. There are people who have used Lambda functions to build out their backends, right? For a while, it was a real fad to create a serverless architecture using Lambda functions to create a backend, right? That comes with its own challenges and its own issues, but some people actually do that. They don't use Elastic Beanstalk to set up their servers, they just use Lambda functions, okay? I'm not a fan of that pattern because I think it is misusing what Lambda functions are meant for, right? Which is a lot of things. There's so many things you can do with it, right? But it's more for on-demand processing, right? Than for, or either on-demand or on-schedule processing to handle triggers, to handle events rather than for applications to come and talk to it. You get what I mean? So, but this is what Lambda functions are. There's a lot more to it than this, but for now, this introduction, I'm hoping will help us get where we need to be. All right. Any questions before we call it? Like, I hope this was. Well, I know. Yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yeah, now I can write Lambda function in my in the resume.
Practice with it. Really practice with it. Create a CloudWatch rule. Remember that the link, the trigger for a Lambda function can be many things. A CloudWatch rule is a very common way of triggering Lambda functions, but they can be triggered from almost any AWS service, and they can be triggered by many things, right? So you can actually have, oh, did you do the trigger here? Yeah, that's the trigger on this one. But they can be triggered by very many things. If you look at this, there's so many ways they can be triggered. And down here, you actually have non-AWS applications, right? Partner.
Yeah, I saw something with Norton
right
at the bottom.
Yes, you see Norton, you see Symantec, right? Sugar.
Oh, sorry, semantics. Yeah.
Yeah, you see Symantec, Zendesk, right? There's like, I know Sugar CRM is a big CRM system. Let's see, right? New Relic, MongoDB. So there are a bunch of systems and third-party systems. Atlassian, that's Jira, and all of that is in Atlassian, right? And then also from within Amazon, look at this, Alexa smartphone.
Sorry, I don't know that.
Yeah, I know. Shut up, Alexa. So, but you see this API. There's so many things you can do here. You can build your own Alexa skills that can trigger an S3, a Lambda function, right? The application load balancer can trigger that. There's so many benefits and uses of this, that being comfortable with this is a valuable skill to have. Okay? It's a valuable skill to have. So, well, let's call it a night here. I hope your heads aren't steaming too much. I haven't heard. Okay, Wale is not actively on this. I was going to say I haven't heard of it. That's usually my gauge of Steve. If Wale is quiet, then I'm like, okay, yes, everybody's dead.
I'm gonna have to watch the video again. I'm being honest on this one. I think I get it conceptually, but I'm gonna have to play around. I think this one I really should have followed you along doing the steps because it's quite easy to follow along, but I didn't start.
Right.
So I think I'm gonna watch the video again and then play around with it a bit.
Yeah, just go into it's very visual. One of the things I like about Lambda is that it has one of the coolest UIs in the AWS Management Console. It has one of the coolest UIs, right? Because I mean, I don't know. Personally, I just think it's one of the cooler looking features in AWS, pretty much. But also, what it does is super, super, super cool. There's a lot more features to it, but just come in here, create a new Lambda function, and test it like the way we did. Just click on test. Play with the code. You can write your node code here. You can practice your node in here, right? You can practice your node in here and just play with it, right? And environment variables, everything, and you'll be good. All right. Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
We'll be seeing the front end folks tomorrow. And next week, we're going to pick up from here. But we can do a review of this. I know this is a whole brand new concept, but it's a very, very important piece. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Is there an after party for questions?
It doesn't seem like. Oh, you have a question? Yes. There's always after party. Yeah. Let's go into the after party.